beautiful people. Welcome to yet another episode of the Younib Breakfast Show with me, Peninah Wachera. I hope you guys have woken up well and are excited to face your day. Yeah? I'm really excited to bring back the conversations on mental health. So happy about that. Yeah. But before anything else, let's go straight to the morning bite of the day. Today we are diving into a topic that touches every part of our lives, self-love. In a world that often tells us we are not enough, learning to truly value ourselves can feel like a radical act. But self-love isn't just about pampering or positive affirmations. It's about building a healthy relationship with ourselves, one that impacts our mental health, our resilience, and even the way we connect with others. To help us unpack this, we are joined by an expert psychologist who will guide us through the science, the challenges, and the practical steps we can all take to embrace self-love in our daily lives. So let's explore how loving ourselves can be the foundation of living fuller, healthier, and more authentic lives. Remember, you can always follow us through our social media platform, Younib_TV on Instagram, Younib Media TV on Facebook, and there's a number on your screen. You can SMS or WhatsApp 0719 144 144. Remember, if you need any psychological help, you can always call the number 0700 352 250, and our very own psychologist will be able to help you out. Yeah. So as I said, we are back to the conversations on mental health, and joining me is not a new face. I know you already know her. But tutamuuliza tu Happy New Year because the last time we saw her was last year. Yeah. So please enjoy the episode and let us also learn more about self-love. Good morning, Bella.
Good morning, Pesh.
How are you feeling?
Oh, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. If your birthday was in January, February, happy birthday. Yeah, but glad to be back.
Yeah, I'm also happy having you guys here. We missed you, by the way. You know, we missed also learning more about our mental health. And I'm so happy that we're starting with self-love. Our last conversation was about an honest you. And I know how better way can we follow that conversation with self-love, yeah? So it feels so awesome. And it's always awesome having you guys here, and mostly you.
Thank you. Don't tell the others that.
I know, right? Okay, so when we are having this conversation, I'd like us to start with a simple question. So what is self-love?
Right. I like even just the intro that you gave, and you talked about having a healthy relationship with oneself.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good description or umbrella for self-love, because we're looking at how you treat yourself, how you view yourself. If you're able to relate with yourself with compassion, with kindness, and with respect. I think a lot of the times it's very easy for you to extend that to other people. But when it comes to yourself, you make a mistake, ushajiambia, hey, mimi nakwanga mjinga, or nakwanga, which is something you wouldn't tell Pesh if she just, did something. Yeah, so sometimes it's looked at also extending that same grace you extend to others to yourself. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and I'd like to know what is the psychological foundation of self-love?
Oh, that's a good question, because it takes us all the way back to how all of us began. We all began as little babies. We all began in someone's womb.
Yeah.
And from the moment we were in someone's womb to the moment we were born, to the time when we were helpless, audrey, ata maziwa ni nini, like the very thing you depend on, you don't even know, you don't have language for. The one thing that remains constant is the need for human love, yeah? The need for attachment, the need to feel connected, the need to also, and so as children, those helpless little babies we're talking about, they're looking for that from their environment. And the environment involves mostly the mother, but all of the caregivers around. And so if this child is attended to, they grow up knowing that they matter and their needs matter. And that begins the foundation of self-love, because we're talking about understanding that I matter just because I exist, not because I have a PhD, not because just because I exist, I matter. And so that's the foundation of self-love. And so you find that a lot of the times we get conditioned by experiences we cannot even remember. If a mother, and this is not even to fault anybody, but kuna times zenye you want to be there and raise your child, but your child needs to eat and you also need to eat. And so you find that a mom has to leave the baby very young, and probably sometimes you leave them in the care of someone who says, chalia talala. And so the more they do that, the more this child realizes, but then my needs don't matter. And so they begin to shelve themselves. And so tona grow, it's very easy to prioritize other people, but when it comes to them, it's lacking. Yeah, so it goes all the way back to attachments formed.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that about the foundation, and it's okay. And I know, I usually tell you guys that here we are always learning, yeah? And it's important for us to keep learning. So remember, you can always comment, you can always talk to us through our social media platforms, yeah? So coming to this conversation, Abdullah, we've heard of self-awareness, we've heard about self-esteem, we've heard about self-confidence. How different are all those self-confidence, self-esteem, awareness compared to self-love?
They're all within the same family. We want to be healthy in all of the above, yeah? I think self-awareness is kind of like the mother, because kama haujijui, it becomes very hard to know what you're capable of, to even love yourself, to even like being with yourself, yeah? So we need to be aware of self. Self-esteem is usually, a lot of the times, it's built by experiences. When you feel like you're good at something and it forms the statement, I am enough, or I'm good enough at something, it jengas that, that confidence that you walk around in, yeah? There's also the aspect of self-competence, so you feel like you can do things, yeah? And so maybe to look at differences, a lot of the time self-esteem, self-confidence, they're built from like evidence zake zinatoka from things that you have done, like history. You can say, I feel good about myself because I achieved 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
But self-love needs to, you remember when we were talking about feeling worthy even before. Yeah. So it becomes an intrinsic driving force. It should be constant. The ideal is that even when you have failed, or even when you have not achieved as you thought you would have, when you have made mistakes, that you can still love and accept yourself in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I love that, yeah? And I like the adage that you've told us of a little child and need. When the child feels like their needs is needed, then they have that feeling, from when you're a child, yeah? And some of us, so when we were growing up, some of us, our needs were really taken care of when we were young, yeah? But when growing up now, apo katikati, the transition between school, now you got the teachers who now made you feel, this is not who you're supposed to be. Like this, you are too outspoken for life, because maybe some people at home, they were told, always talk about it, always feel free to speak, whatever is in your mind, speak. Unaenda shule unapata mwalimu anakuambia, hapana, no, you're too talkative, you do so much, and maybe they forget about now self-love. Wanaanza kusema, my parents walinidanganya mahali, they made me think that I am okay to exist in this world, but when going to somewhere else, I'm like, this is not what is needed, yeah? So I'd like us to go to the actions, yeah? How will I know that I have self-love, or how would you tell that somebody has self-love in them?
So I'd pose that in the same way. How would you know the person you're in relationship with anakupenda? What are those actions you'd look for,
Let me tell you. When you bring love into something else,
pesa,
it's
money bouquet.
Even that is a question that I know so many people are asking themselves. Yeah?
So it's like, a conversation.
Why do you love me? Like, most times you will allow me to segue. Yeah? And when we talk about love of another person, it's so hard sometimes to know, mostly in this day and age, because people will tell you, I love you, but how sure am I that you love me? And maybe your actions are not showing. There are people who don't show the action. Maybe, they don't say I love you, but they show the action. Others will tell you I love you, but their actions are speaking differently. Yeah. So when you talk about that, it is so different.
It touches on a different.
Yeah, it will be very a very hard and harsh topic and conversation.
It's a much larger conversation.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
But I was using that to drive at what are some of those actions that are important to you, that if it's your mother telling you she loves you, you'd be able to see it because of consistency of certain actions. Yeah, because some of those things give us hints into even our relationship with ourselves. So one, what's the language you use with yourself? I keep saying kila mtu jiongelesha. It may not be out loud, the way we judge other people, but kila mtu jiongelesha. So what's that conversation in your head? Is it kind? Is it critical? Does it build you up? Does it put you down? Does it celebrate your wins? I mean, accounting it to na hujafanya, na hujakuwa successful na. So what's the language that you use with yourself? Number one. Number two, how are your boundaries looking like? So are you the kind of person who is always saying yes when you mean no? And so kila time, probably Pesh has asked me to hang out with her, to do things for her. And I'm thinking, sina yo capacity sahi. But because I can't say no, I'd rather please Pesh. I end up feeling resentful of myself and also maybe even of Pesh because I was not able to stand up for myself. So where do your boundaries lie?
I want us to just put a pin on where our boundaries lie, yeah? And we take this short break, Cindy. And it's good to always have good self-talk. Right? Tumeambiwa ni poa kujiongelesha. And I remember we were talking to I was just talking to a friend of mine just early in the morning, and alikuwa ananiambia, sometimes we may look mad because we talk to ourselves, but it's in the real sense, it really helps a long way. Yeah, na mmesikia. So we are not going crazy, guys. It is true, it's good to have self-talk. Yeah, as we think about that, I want us to take a short break and we'll be back with more conversation about self-love. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Younib TV, Faith, Inspiration, Unity. Younib TV, Faith, Inspiration, Unity.
Welcome back. This is still the Younib Breakfast Show with me, Peninah, Wachera, and my lovely psychologist, Beulah Njagi, and we are here to just have a conversation on self-love. Yeah, before the break, she had told us that there are things that we are supposed to know. How will we know that somebody has self-love in them? And one of them, tumeambiwa, the positive self-talk, and the second one is having boundaries. Yeah. So I'd like you to continue with the conversation. So what other actions, aside from the two, that we can look at it and tell ourselves, okay, this one is because we have self-love in us?
I think I'll try and summarize what may seem like many points to going back to pale tulianza kwa foundations. Also meeting our own needs, our needs for rest, our need for time out, our need for space to regulate, yeah? Because I think also in the culture of fanya, where we find our identity in the things that we do before even we know who we are, Unaambiwa unakuanga number 1 shule, so that's your identity. The moment unakuwa number 2, number 3, number 10,
you're a failure.
Hey, you know. But and so because you get so used to that culture of doing, we even feel guilty taking rests. That the one day unaambiwa you feel like you need to relax, you start to feel like I'm not doing anything. Why? Kwani I'm lazy? Kwani I'm, and then the self-talk again begins to reflect where you are at with yourself. Yes, I think we'll try and work with that framework of, you know, being able to meet your needs, noticing how you speak to yourself. So ensuring, because tumesema self-talk ni constant, we want to make it positive. You need kujenga and not the one that will actually tear you down and lead you to anxiety, depression, and other, you know, mental health disorders and boundaries.
Okay, interesting. And I hope we are taking notes and we're getting to learn more about this conversation. Remember, this show is proudly brought to you by Visio Ashan and Younib organization, and we're trying to reach out to the community to teach you on matters mental health. So if you know someone, if you are someone who is going through a mental issue, you can always call the number 0700-352-250, and our very own psychologist, Bila included, will be able to help you out. So as we continue with this conversation, and as you think about your mental health today, it's important to also think about the person who is going through the most, and it matters mental health, and just tell them there's a place where you can get help. Just call this number and you will get assistance. Sawa? So coming back to the conversation, Beulah, you've told us about the actions, so I want us to go to some of the evidence-based practices that help people cultivate self-love.
Okay, so again, we started up our foundations, and we're talking about attachments. And so psychologically, there's a theory called attachment theory that looks at how that security was formed, you know, about knowing that you are loved, that you are wanted, that you're, and they were looking at how it impacts little children. So they did an experiment, I don't know if that's legal, but they did it, an experiment with children whereby they asked the mother to come play with the child a bit, mother leaves, a stranger comes in, and then stranger leaves and mother comes back. And they wanted to see what's the reaction of the child when mother leaves, when stranger comes in, and when mother comes back. And they were noticing that children who are secure, they're able to, they'll notice that mother has left and they'll feel sad, they'll probably cry. If a stranger comes to comfort them, they may or may not be comforted, but when mother comes back, they're able to connect with her. And when she comforts, wataitikia, and they're able to go back to play. And so what that tells us is that it's never a straight line, you know, in parenting. For those who are thinking, why I have a child, I'm already working, you know, I've already messed up. Or for those of us who are thinking, we are adults, we don't even know what happened, how can we repair? It's to show that it's not about it being a straight line or having something consistently. It's about being able to repair, to process it and repair. So when we're looking at some of the things that we can look at doing, I think ever since I started learning about mindfulness, I realized how important it is in even just trying to cultivate these healthy practices. And what is mindfulness? It's being able to be present. Like say niko hapa kwa studio na Pesh having this conversation, and I'm present in it. And so if you're present with yourself, that's when one, you'll notice how your thoughts are about yourself. You'll notice whether you're compassionate ama unakwanga tu kijijudge. And that's in that noticing, you're able now to build acceptance. You're able to catch yourself, you know, when you're telling yourself, nakwanga mjinga, you catch yourself and you say, no, I just made a mistake. But it's not who I am. And so you're able to begin correcting. And that's where the intervention is. It's in the correcting. You catch it and you correct. So whether you're a parent or whether you're in that adult stage, sikuzi tunasema reparenting yourself, you know, doing those things that you didn't get as a child, probably no one knew you needed, Probably your parents were doing the best they could with the resources that they had.
Yeah.
But now that you're an adult, we can't be 30 and we are saying, Niju, nyumbani.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it becomes a point where we need to take responsibility. And so that's where some of these things come into play. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I love that, and I love the fact that you've gotten to define mindfulness, because that was one of my next questions. You know, how does mindfulness and therapy really play a role when it comes to self-love? So please kindly continue.
Okay. So we're looking at building awareness of yourself. I think we also realize, I think kukwai field, sometimes you ask someone how they're feeling and they'll say good, bad. That's the vocabulary we have for how we are feeling. Until now you start digging. Describe bad is when you maybe now begin to build that language with that person. So a lot of the times we don't even know what we are feeling. Kama si mbaya, kama haiko kwa extremes, niko tu, you know? But we need to know, we need to be aware, because how you feel gives you certain thoughts, right? So sometimes you feel, I don't know if you've ever woken up and you're feeling already low and tired, and you notice how you even talk to yourself throughout that day. It can be so easy to be unkind just because una feel vibaya. And so all your thoughts go towards that feeling of feeling vibaya. But if you're mindful, you're able to catch it, you're able to name it, you're able to angalia aya what has happened, and then you're able to do things differently so that you don't, again, I keep talking about being so conscious of your thoughts, usijipate kwa depression na anxiety because of the things that you're telling yourself. And so that's the place that mindfulness plays. Again, mindfulness helps us to be compassionate, because the rules, if I can call them that, of mindfulness, we observe and we don't judge. I'm just noticing, hiya, this thing, ikona nails, ikona turangi. I'm not judging. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's a good thing. I'm just observing what it is. And what that teaches you is compassion. It's like, again, going back to that practice of if your friend was in that situation that you're in, ungemwita all those things that you call yourself, or would you try and, you know, make them feel better and walk them through it?
Yeah.
So being able to extend, again, mindfulness becomes that thing that gives us compassion for self, and then now it extends even to others. Empathy for self, and then even extending to others. Yeah.
Interesting. And I love the fact that now we can be able to know the importance of us having good conversations, positive conversations with ourselves, yeah, and how it, what it does to our mind, to ourselves, yeah. So I want us to take this short break, and when we come back, we're continuing with the conversation when it comes to self-love. And we want to know, is there an unhealthy side of self-love? So we'll be tackling that after the break.
Younib TV, Faith, Inspiration, Unity. Younib TV, Faith, Inspiration, Unity.
Welcome back. This is still the Younib Breakfast Show with me, Peninah Wachera, and my lovely therapist, Beulah Njagi. And we're here to give you information or to teach you or to help you understand more on self-love. Remember, this show is proudly brought to you by Miss Yo Ashan and Younib Organization. And we're trying to reach out to the community to teach you on matters mental health. So if you need any psychological help, you can always call the number 0700-352-250, and our very own psychologist will be able to help you out. Remember, you can also interact with us. Ask us your questions. Let us know how we are helping you when it comes to your mental health through our social media platform, Younib_TV on Instagram, Younib Media TV on Facebook, and there's a number on your screen. You can SMS or WhatsApp 0719 144 144. So before the break, I had told you we're coming to talk about whether there's a negative side of self-love. And I'll just rephrase that question to how do we distinguish between healthy self-love and unhealthy self-indulgence?
So when we look at self-love and the aspect of responsibility, self-indulgence will not allow you to take responsibility. So if I was to pick an example of maybe we have had a fallout, or maybe this relationship is toxic, as we say, you know. But all relationships are a function of two people, right? And so I need to also look at what has been my part in this relationship, so that whether this relationship needs to end or it needs to change, it's not just me sitting here and saying pesh, pesh, pesh. I also need to look at what have I done, what have I contributed to this being here. And so self-love allows for growth, right? The whole point of self-love is so that you're able to grow into a more healthy version of you. And a more healthy version means you're not hautoroki vitu, you're not running away from either yourself or even from, hard conversations or from other people, because self-love does not take away the place of community. Yeah, we need love from inside, from ourselves, so that when we're in community, we're also healthy in community. But we're not picking one and neglecting the other. Okay. And so I think self-indulgence would look like using self-love as an excuse to not even be kind, to not be considerate, to not be loyal, to not be, the things that make us a healthy community. Yeah. And so it begins to cross that line for selfishness. It's not even boundary setting anymore. Yeah. It's that you're also now totally disregarding any other person's feelings, emotions, rights as well. Yeah. And so kuna kwanga na that saying that my right ends where their next person's rights begin. So there needs to be that distinction, that even if I am honoring, I know where boundaries are, and they are set in a way that protect me, but they're also set in a way that protect the other people around me.
Okay. Interesting. And I hope you're following up with this conversation and you're getting to understand that if you have self-love, you also have love for another person. Not only for yourself, but for also other people around you. Sawa. So msiseme, because I was told I have self-love in me, then I will not care about my neighbor. No. We are even told in the Bible that you should love your neighbor as you love yourself. That, I think that comes from the self-love. Correct. If you have healthy self-love, you will definitely remove it or give it out to other people, right?
Yeah, and yes. I think we can say that it's a defining factor, because it should spill over. If I have compassion for myself, it doesn't make sense for me to not have compassion for you, because then who is my authentic self? Where am I? Am I kind or am I not? Yeah. So if I learn to do those things for myself, it even becomes, it enriches my relationships, because now it pours out easily, because now it's the truth. Yeah.
Awesome. When you talk about healthy self-love, I'd like to know, does it help me become better when it comes to handling stress and trauma?
Absolutely. It builds resilience. Remember, when there is stress and there's trauma, again, if you're to look at the thoughts that are happening at that point, they're usually very chaotic, if I can say. Yeah. And so when there's self-love, if we take the case of stress, when there's self-love, you're able to, first of all, notice, because you're in touch with yourself. If you're with, again, if you're to use the example of someone you love, you want to spend time with them. You want to check in on them. You want to know how they are, right? So if we're extending the same for ourselves, I'll be able to catch it early that, niko stressed, ka burnout kanakuja. rather than imenipata tu. Okay?
Yeah.
So one, we're able to look at it, to notice it coming. And then two, then we're able to ask myself, I'm able to ask myself, what do I need to see myself through this time? So that instead of letting stress flatten me and I'm still saying yes to everything and everyone coming, I'm able to say, I need to exert certain boundaries so that I take a rest and take better care of myself. And if I do that, then the more resilience I gain, because now I don't push myself to situations where zitanimaliza completely. I'm able to rest, reset, come back for the next one. And that builds strength. And even for trauma, it's being able to process it with love so that now you form that relationship where you are accepting and loving of yourself. Because when trauma happens, a lot of the times it comes from either abandonment, rejection, things that cause such pain, such hurt, that communicate the message you're not worthy, you're not wanted, you're not. And so when self-love is in play, it helps that process of even processing this hurt and being able to bounce back, being able to create a new life after that trauma. Yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap up this conversation, because naona naambiwa time, and I want us to continue because we're learning so much, but because of time, yeah, I'd like you to talk to someone who has been struggling with self-criticism, yeah, for so long, yeah, and they want to start practicing self-love. How will they do it? And as you're talking to that person or to those people, you can also add to someone who is starting, who is beginning the journey of self-love. How will they be able to learn more of how they can love themselves, and what can you recommend for them?
So I think to both of them, if I can put them together, because I think a lot of us fall in either or we bounce back a lot. We say we're starting, we go back to criticism, and we need to learn that a lot of the times your criticism, it's a voice that we learned. And so step one is back to mindfulness, back to being aware. Sauti by the ni ya nani? So we realize if we need to process that in therapy. Did I grow up being criticized so much that my default setting is that voice that I learned, right? And so when you notice it, you're able to catch it, and we're able to begin that process of self-talk. Because even if you go to therapy, you're not in therapy the whole 24 hours of the week. It's a session, and then there's time to practice. And so within that practice, you need to be aware of where you are at, aware of how you're relating to yourself, aware of your needs, and be able to meet yourself there. So ni pole pole tu. If you can wake up, notice that ushajiongelesha vibaya and correct it. You know, tell yourself something, the opposite of what you have thought. That begins the steps, so that you begin to teach your brain to talk differently to yourself, and you begin to see the changes that makes, even in how you view and perceive yourself. In a nutshell, as summarized as I can get.
Okay. So thank you so much for taking your time to come and teach us more about self-love. And as I said, I think this year, I started the year telling people that this year doesn't need you to sit down and think about your New Year's resolution. Maybe perhaps you've always had a New Year's resolution, but the moment in Africa the next year, unajipata huja accomplish anything. It's because you're not honest to self. So when we were starting this, I told them that sometimes we just need to be honest with ourselves. And I love the fact that when we come to the mental health, we've started with self-love. It's really important, because if you're beginning to be honest with yourself, definitely you'll start having conversations by yourself, telling yourself, okay, so what am I even doing in this life? Is it really what I really need to be? Is it the place? But also having the love for yourself, the compassion for yourself will help you now be able to be like, my journey is not the same as somebody else's, I have my own journey. I don't have to give myself pressure, because everyone is maybe getting married, everyone is maybe having a job somewhere, but I'm not yet there. So being self-compassionate, being honest to yourself, just talking to yourself also positively will be able to help you. So I'm very, very happy that you've gotten to talk to us about this, because it's important for us. Even as we continue with this year, let's just be compassionate to ourselves this year. Don't be in a rush. Don't listen to people, because whatever they have done, it doesn't have to be your journey. Your journey will take time, and everybody's timing is never the same, So choose yourself. I told you this year, choose yourself. Just choose yourself. Look at yourself and know this is the journey I am going through. So asante sana Bila for the conversation. We are really, really happy seeing you here and seeing that you're also healthy for the as the year begins. Yeah? So thank you so much for listening to us. For everyone who has made this show a success, thank you so much, Elias Muchina, for ensuring this show has come to you or to our viewers the way they are. Yeah? Asante sana. By the way, you can go check him out on Thursdays at 2 p.m. He brings a show called Nicorada. Yeah? And then we support as the Uni Breakfast Show team to end up here every Thursday. We will be tuning into Nicorada to see tupelekwe na rada, as how he says. Yeah. So thank you so much for everyone who's made this show a success. Asante Elias, asante Susan for being behind the camera, and also Juliet for being behind the camera. So until next time, you guys, have yourselves a beautiful day ahead. Goodbye.